Don in London, hello. It's August the 20th. My video is all about recovery from addictions and alcoholism, or just simply substances and behaviour. And I sort of added one or two bits in there. I normally just say addiction to either substance or behaviour, or both. I went to a meeting of a fellowship. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. I am. Let's start again. August 20th, all about recovery from addictions to either substance and behaviour. My addictive substance, alcohol, could have been anything, and the behaviour that goes with it, which is to be trying to be with the right people in the right place, with the right things, doing the right things, and pretty much perfect, or aiming to be perfect, in an imperfect world, with imperfect people. So many people have very broad outlooks, which means they are pretty good at some things, know enough about some other things, and know very little about other things, realising that some sort of balance in life is probably a good idea. A balance between work, family, personal, all the stuff that we can do, the interests that we develop over the years as we get a bit older. But unfortunately some of my interests required fixing myself with a drink to feel convivial, to feel sadness, joy or sadness, and then finding that I may or may not be with the right people, person, place or thing. So these days it's not about being right or wrong, it's about being myself and developing the interests I have, whatever they may be. So recovery, one day at a time for me. How did I get into recovery? Find sobriety, whatever you want to describe it as. How did I find it? Well, family, friends, community, professionals kept me alive. And along came a fellowship, and that fellowship was and is Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't speak for AA, never can, never will. Very happy not to, but I can speak about how it works for me and share experience, strength and hope around how fellowship works for me. So there are many fellowships out there which we can be a part of if we need to, and we have a problem with a particular substance or a particular type of behaviour. I have to say that I can cross-addict like anybody else. I can be dealing with my sobriety regarding alcohol, and then I can find myself out of balance with other things like coffee. Cheers, coffee. Because for some people coffee is an addiction, because the coffee changes the way we are. Everything changes the way we are. It's a question of how does it impede our spiritual and emotional being in the moment of now, being content or excited or sad as life is in the moment of now, where our feelings fit what is going on, and we don't drag in feelings from the past, or we don't hope for things for the future which may or may not be possible. We live in today, so maybe we can set something down or do something which is about our future, but not try and solve it all at once. That's how it works for me. So the reason why I share about AA is a big part of my recovery. I learn from other people who are in fellowship, but I don't speak for them, because they are unique and authentic and particular to what is going on right now. And every journey is different for each individual, but we have a set of principles which work for us, and they're called the 12 steps, or 12 principles, or 12 ways of letting life happen and being in life in the moment. And then we have 12 traditions which hold the fellowship together. And it's a pretty interesting way of setting up a fellowship where no one can tell anyone else what to do, and where we learn what is unity, service and recovery, what keeps us healthy in fellowship. So informative maybe these videos are, or maybe just a gentle welcome, or just simply a catch-up on the daily reflections that are available in our or my literature. the AA literature, and then some stuff I share as well, based on recovery. So what is AA, or what is a fellowship all about, comes down to a preamble shared at every meeting of my fellowship, AA. I don't own it, I'm just a part of it. But I like belonging to it because it helps me daily through conscious contact with other people. So AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And when I was at a treatment centre run by the National Health Service in the UK, I asked and pleaded to be allowed to participate in their treatment programs, which gave me access to a counsellor once a week to start with, and a recovery workshop, which was all about how not to drink when the pressure's on, when we are feeling the extremes of life and don't know what to do. So I was very lucky to get to be part of that, and as a continuation of that, one or two people asked me to do videos which they could then log into, so they wouldn't have to go to AA because they were completely against it. And why should anybody be against AA? Simply, it takes away what is the best friend we ever had, the thing which fixed us in some way or other, so we could cope in a sort of half-hearted way with life. These days, sober, I try cope with reality, and some call that spiritual, being in the moment where old feelings don't make it a calamity or make it a mistake. Feelings come along as reality is, so feelings fit the moment, and we don't have to doubt the way we look at life. We may share about it to get feedback, and then maybe we change a bit, but it's simply progress and never perfect. It may feel perfect because it's imperfectly perfect. Things I've learned as I've gone along. So I don't have to be complete, I don't have to be right, I don't have to know the answers. All I need is the willingness, the honesty and openness to keep on learning life and what's important right now. That's how it works for me. So then we have daily reflections from the fellowship, which comes from, I don't know where to put the book now. I had it here just a moment. No, I can't find it. What have I done with it? Anyway, it doesn't matter. I've written it on a piece of paper. AA Daily Reflections covers the 12 steps or 12 principles and the 12 traditions over 365 days. So each month is a step and a tradition, and in August it's all about step 8, which is making a list of amends we need make and be willing to make them all, which is tidying up our side of the street about what we did, where amends are due and restitution is due, and being willing to make them. And then there is step 9, where we discuss and work out how to make the amends without doing further harm, which means some cannot be made. But we have ways to deal with that, and I'll talk about that in September. So step 8 is this month. So AA Daily Reflections for August 20th. Toward emotional freedom. And for me, emotional freedom means being able to feel right in the moment without a whole calamity of stuff coming down or clattering on my head, and not being too far in the future. Toward emotional freedom. Since defective relations, or simply ineffective relations with other human beings, have nearly always been the immediate cause of our woes, including our alcoholism, no field of investigation could yield more satisfying and valuable rewards than this one. Willingness is a peculiar thing for me in that, over a period of time, it seems to come first with awareness, but then with a feeling of discomfort, making me want to take some action. And this is about the list of amends. As I reflected on taking the eighth step, my willingness to make amends to others came as a desire for forgiveness of others and myself. And the reason why it has to be forgiveness both ways round. Self-forgiveness, because we were doing the best we could with what we had. And sometimes our best felt like the worst for other people. And sometimes the worst a person could be toward us was the best they could be in that moment, because either we provoked them or they were already provoked to deal with us harshly. So we get past this thing of it was their fault. That's the main thing. And to actually understand our part in matters and how to make amends round them. My willingness to make amends to others came as a desire for forgiveness of others and myself. I felt forgiveness toward others after I became aware of my part in difficulties of relationships. I wanted to feel the peace and serenity described in the promises, and that comes after step 9, the promises, where we are rocketed into the fourth dimension, and actually the fourth dimension is time. So we're actually rocketed into the moment of now. And the promise is, if we see reality, we will get a better life. It doesn't mean a better financial life or romantic life, just simply a better way of looking at the way the world works and how we work. And we get our freedom of choice back. As I reflected on taking the eighth step, my willingness to make amends to others came as a desire for forgiveness of others and myself. I felt forgiveness toward others after I became aware of my part in the difficulties of relationships. I wanted to feel the peace and serenity described in the promises. From working the first 7 steps, I became aware of whom I had harmed and that I had been my own worst enemy. In order to restore my relationships with my fellow human beings, I knew I would have to change my attitude and behaviour for me. I wanted to learn to live in harmony with myself and others so that I could also live in emotional freedom. The beginning of the end to my isolation from my fellows and from God, or simply our good conscience, depending on your belief system. And your belief system need be maintained unless you want to change it through experience, strength and hope. So whether you're atheist, agnostic or believer, whichever you start with, you may end up the other way, depending on your life experience and what you come to understand. So a personal understanding of a higher power is pretty important. Simply good conscience and the wisdom of others, maybe, or more, depending on what is right for you. The beginning of the end to my isolation from my fellows and from God came when I wrote my eighth step list. So the 8th step list, excuse me, a bit uncomfortable today, caused by overdoing it. The 8th step list is the amends and being willing to make them. Just be willing to make them. That's as far as step 8 goes, because if we start to work out, excuse me, I really am in a bad way this morning. The way we work it, if we work it well, is to know and understand how each step is fitted together. So step 8 is about making the list and being willing. Step 9 is discussion of how to make restitution or the amend without doing further harm, and that needs some more input, usually from somebody who has already done the steps, or in my case it was somebody who had the experience of it in real life, what it meant to them, in fact more than one, and also a counsellor, because that was part of the process at the health service, going through where amends could be made and without doing further harm. And self-harm, which is to beat ourselves up more thoroughly by the shellacking we might get from somebody else who is more harmed by our approach. it's a very difficult place to be. But I know if we do these things in a timely manner, when we know and understand ourselves better, then life becomes more understandable and our freedoms of choice get better. So my thoughts this morning: a life story in step 4, the life story in step 4 becomes our reference book. It's probably the only self-help reference book we really can rely on, because it's our life history. Then in step 5 we share our assets and liabilities, the good and bad of ourselves, with another human being, and our good conscience and God, depending on your belief system. My belief system I shall share in a moment. Step 6, contingent on the day we ask. We are less drawn into our liabilities or defects of character, mine being fear, putting on a brave face, a stiff upper lip, and hoping that my ego will cover my shame and guilt. And then step 7, improving our courage, faith and confidence today. So step 6, or sometimes called the psychic change, or maybe it's just simply a psychological change, depending on how you view it. This is from always reacting in a negative way through fear, putting on a brave face, covering up the secrets that keep us stuck in old behaviour, covering up an isolation, to having then in step 7 enough courage, faith and confidence, where in early days shortcomings for me, short on courage, faith and confidence. Now I have enough for today. I don't want enough for a lifetime, it's impossible. So the psychological change to operate more with courage, faith and confidence, that I'm behaving better and my attitudes have improved. That is, I have the humility to keep on learning life. Then step 8, making the list of amends and being willing to make them, which is preparation for step 9, which follows. Step work, timely and particular to each of us. So step work is timely and particular to each of us. We go at the pace which we can, bearing in mind that we are learning new attitudes, new behaviour. We've written a life story. We're working on a psychic change to loose ourselves of our fears and improve our faith, and then making the list. And then, step 9, it really does need the input of other people, because if we go off on our own, we may underscore, or I suppose not cover all the amends which we really need make, because we still like to keep one secret, don't we? There's probably 1 or 2 things that you don't want anybody ever to know, and that's the first one we should write down, or ought maybe to write down. What is the crushing secret which will keep us stuck? And then when we get over that, and get over ourselves, it becomes apparent that if there is a word for what we have done, it has been done millions and millions of times throughout history, and we are no different to those other people, whoever they happen to be. So, sober, good and usually difficult, life works better today. So being sober, good and usually difficult, life is good. But it's also difficult, as M. Scott Peck pointed out in The Road Less Travelled, and all you need to know really is life is difficult, and if you accept that, it's going to work out, because it means we'll work at life today. And something else I put up and out there was, our way back to extraordinary, ordinary living is truly a gift in recovery, learning as we go with gentle stoicism. So, extraordinary, ordinary, that's how life turns out. It's ordinary life, but it's extraordinary. And it's a gift of recovery, because before I was shut down, isolated and sitting on a park bench, Billy, no mates, no friends, frightened to make any unless they were drinking, and frightened even to talk to family who were desperate to try and help me but just didn't know how, because I didn't know how either. And gentle stoicism means courage, faith and confidence, fortitude, stoic, to let life happen be gentle with myself and other people, that we are doing the best we can, even when we turn up and behave as the worst we can. Hope each day slows down or speeds up to be in the moment of now. So if I want to live in the moment, sometimes I can be going a bit too slow because life is going faster, or I can be going so fast towards a goal I'm not actually seeing what's going on now, so I miss the point, which is the reality of now. And this is where feelings fit our current situation. So if we feel right and our feelings are the same size as what's going on, and believe you me, I had no clue what my feelings were when I first started recovery. I thought I was only allowed to have happy feelings, and then loose or let go unhappy feelings. The truth is we need both. We need balance. We need to be real with life. No burden from the past, enough faith to continue on our journeys today. So those were today's. And then from previous years, toward emotional freedom. Feelings first, then we think about them. So feelings, we have, if you imagine that gut-wrenching feeling when fear strikes, if something dangerous is happening, often with us in recovery, old fears come piling in to this present moment, which is, here we go again. It's always like this. I can't believe it's happening again. So, when our feelings fit what is going on, all those old bits don't pile in, and all the other things that we might hope for don't colour or make today impossible. Our mood and emotions felt then, our mood and emotions felt then thought through. So we can feel happy, and I can walk away from a happy moment and wonder why it was happy, and then start thinking about it. And then I say to myself, I want that to happen again. Usually it's a hug from a lovely human female who just says, it's great to see you, gives me a hug, and I feel happy. Then I walk away and think, oh, I'd like that again. Need not be greedy these days. If it happens, it happens. It's wonderful if it does. So feelings then thought through. Sometimes limits the actions we take. Sometimes extends our actions. So if our feelings are right, or not quite right, we don't feel up to it, or we're not right in the moment, we're feeling down, then we need maybe adjust our thinking and our attitude and our behaviour. So feelings always come first. They inform us about what sort of thinking we're going to start making, and then what actions are we going to take. And then we make risk assessments all day long. That's it. We work out the risk of, should I do this, should I not do this, consciously, and some without thought. So some things we just do. We look whichever way we're going in order that we don't get run down by a car or a bus. And some other things we do automatically. We just maybe don't take account of other people, and then they get cross with us. Quite rightly, because we can be very selfish in our outlook unless we actually ask ourselves, what are we doing? Are we part of something, or are we just working things out on our own? And also, how am I feeling, why, and what to do? How am I feeling, why, and what can I do is assertive. How am I feeling, what can I do is being assertive. So if we're on our own, it will work. How we are feeling, or how are we feeling, why, and what can we do is about empathy. So there is something about being assertive in what we need, needs met, wants forgotten. But when we're working with others, empathy is absolutely needed, because if we try and impose ourselves on other people and what they want to do, we will get a rebellious response, quite rightly. To be able to feel, express and be assertive in the moment helps us find empathy of how we feel and why, and express what we can do together. Empathy, part of our emotional progress today. So if we're working with people, it does suit us to take account of what other people are saying. Because if we say, I've set up a day of entertainment for you, and somebody or a group of people are not up for entertainment, this can happen in any situation, or I've decided we're all going out to do this, is not empathy, and it's absolutely not assertive. Well, it can be assertive in a way, but it's telling, not sharing. If I want to go out and watch a film and nobody else wants to, I can go out and be assertive. If I need a crew of people to go with me, or I would like to be in a crew of people going to any particular film, then it's about empathy and choice. Choose to accept and be a part of, or choose to decline and do what I want to do, and both are right. Both situations are right, because we are allowed to assert our freedoms. So that's what recovery does for me daily. Freedom of choice today. And yesterday there was a whole load of stuff around cross-addiction. Now, I go to AA for alcohol, and actually it seems to work with most of the other things I could be cross-addicted with, like people, places and things. Not alcohol. Trying to be with the right people because that I ought to be with them. In the right place because that's where I see the scene is happening for me. Things, I suppose, things in terms of having the right things in the right place with the right people. All that stuff is all about balance. So I take the view that sometimes I do get a bit of a fad to do with, I don't know, being with certain people, but generally I'm with all people all the time, but I'm probably more connected to just a few of them. That's how friendships develop, and it's outside and inside fellowship. So the cross addictions where we could become manic and overdo it in any particular area of life, there are fellowships for those things too. What I've learned is I can only do 12 steps adequately one day at a time, live the principles of a 12-step program. So whichever 12-step program suits you, all well and good. I feel better now. I didn't realise I was going on so long, but the whole point is, when yesterday, cross-addictions are another way of beating ourselves up, unless we say to ourselves, okay, if I work these 12 steps, I'm more likely to get balance around anything to do with substance or anything to do with behaviour. So my step 10s, which follow in October, which is about what has disturbed me today, will tell me and inform me where I'm overdoing it in a particular area, and it might become just another addiction. And that is important, because if it's one fellowship or another fellowship, 12 steps in principles are enough. Otherwise, I suspect I'll be doing 144 12 fellowships of 12 steps, and that's just silly. But that's a personal view. Silly in the sense that only one set need work, and then balance is restored, the restoring of sanity. And sanity means accepting life on life's terms, being an extraordinary, ordinary person living sobriety. Yeah. Anyway, that's enough. Some contention in there, but not to put people off, but just to illustrate that whichever program works for you, why not have a go at working it, and do it with others who know and have shared and have developed wisdom. So my higher power is in the form of truth, love and wisdom, and some people call that God. So whether you're atheist, agnostic or believer, what counts is the collective wisdom of the people around us. If we listen to it, it's a certain higher power than the one inside us, because it's informative and ongoing. So I have no problem with God or higher powers, because they're all there in some shape or form. The connection is always to those with wisdom who share it back. The serenity prayer to God or in good conscience keeps me alert to what I can and cannot do on a daily basis. I can change my attitude and behaviour, I cannot change your attitude and behaviour, but I can also assert my freedoms about what I'd like to do today. And sometimes that will be inclusive or exclusive, depending on what it is. But the Serenity Prayer gets me out of scrapes when my self-will comes tumbling back into reality and stops me from being a bit of a Burke, as we would say here, or a schmuck, as they say in other places. The Serenity Prayer to God, or in good conscience: God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference for me, pretty much in the moment and just for today.